AITA for exposing my sister after she hijacked my daughter's birthday party for her wedding? I'd turned 42 3 weeks before this happened, and I had promised myself that this would be the year I stopped apologizing for other people's behavior. My daughter Maddie had just turned 11, which is that tender age when she still wants themed cupcakes and sparkly candles, but also pretends not to care when adults hurt her feelings. My younger sister, Claire, has always been my mother's delicate masterpiece. Claire was the one everyone had to tiptoe around. I was the daughter expected to smooth the tablecloth after Claire flipped it. That isn't me being dramatic. That was our family system. If Claire cried, I must have said something too sharply. If Claire insulted someone, she was stressed. If Claire forgot my birthday, she had a lot going on. If I objected, my mother, Diane, would sigh like I had personally exhausted her and say, "Olivia, be the bigger person." In our family, Claire's feelings were treated like weather. Everyone else just had to dress for it. I could swallow that for myself for years. I'm not proud of it, but I learned early that arguing only made me look difficult. What I didn't realize until Maddie got older was that my family had started teaching her the same rules. Maddie wanted them to love her so badly. She drew birthday cards for Diane and Claire. She saved Grandma the biggest cookie whenever we brought dessert. She asked me before family dinners, "Do you think Aunt Claire will like my dress?" And then pretended she didn't care when Claire barely looked up from her phone. The first time Maddie said, "Maybe Grandma likes me better when I don't talk too much," I felt something in me go cold. Claire was 37 and getting married to Ethan, who was a decent man as far as I could tell. He was quiet, polite, and clearly trying to believe that Claire's sharp edges were just wedding stress. His mother, Ruth, was practical and observant, the kind of woman who noticed when someone smiled for pictures but snapped at the server holding the water pitcher. Claire had asked Maddie to be her flower girl. At first, Maddie was thrilled. She wore the little flower crown from the dress shop around our kitchen for 3 days. But the more Claire talked about it, the more uneasy I felt. She never said, "Maddie will love this," or, "I want her to feel included." She said things like, "She's going to make the pictures look so sweet," and, "Ruth will love the whole little niece moment." It makes everything feel more family-centered. Once, during a dress fitting, Maddie spun in front of the mirror and asked, "Do you like it, Aunt Claire?" Claire didn't answer right away because she was zooming in on a photo. Then she said, "Stand straighter. You look perfect when you don't hunch." Maddie's smile shrank. Diane clapped her hands and said, "Listen to your aunt. She knows how photos work." That was when I started paying closer attention. Maddie's birthday was supposed to be simple. Not a rented venue, not some huge production. Just a casual backyard gathering at Diane's house because she had the biggest patio and kept insisting, "It would mean so much to me to host my granddaughter." I should have known there was a catch. Still, I wanted Maddie to have one normal afternoon with the family she kept trying to love. She picked a pink vanilla cake with strawberry filling. We bought sparkly number candles, paper plates with little gold stars, streamers, and a small banner that said "Happy 11th Birthday, Maddie." The night before, she sat at our kitchen table writing cards for a photo board called 11 Things I Loved This Year. One card said pancakes shaped like turtles. One said my blue sweatshirt because it feels like a hug. One said Grandma's backyard when the lights come on. That one almost broke me. The morning of the party, Maddie was excited but nervous. She stood in front of the mirror smoothing her dress and asked, "Do you think Aunt Claire will think it's babyish?" I was tying the ribbon on the cake box, and I had to make myself smile. "I think birthdays are allowed to be happy," I said. She nodded like she was trying to believe me. When we arrived, Diane's backyard looked nice enough. Folding chairs were set near the patio. There were lemonade pitchers on the outdoor table and a cooler by the steps. I set up Maddie's birthday display on the main table because Diane pointed there and said, "Put her things where everyone can see them." Maddie helped me tape the banner to the fence. She placed her little cards beside the photo board and kept checking the cake box like it might disappear. For the first 30 minutes, everything was fine. Relatives hugged her. Aunt Linda gave her a bracelet. A cousin took pictures of her holding up 11 fingers. Maddie laughed when the sparkly candle topper got glitter on her cheek. Then Claire arrived late. She came through the side gate carrying 2 big tote bags and followed by Ethan, who had a bakery box in one hand and a stack of cream-colored envelopes in the other. Claire wore white linen, which wouldn't have bothered me except she also announced, "I brought a few wedding things since everyone is already here. It will only take 5 minutes." 5 minutes with Claire usually meant everyone else should cancel their plans. Diane brightened immediately. "Oh good. Put them on the table." I looked at the table, then at Maddie's cake, her photo board, her cards, her candles. "Mom," I said quietly, "that's Maddie's birthday table." Diane waved me off. "Just slide a few things over. Claire has so much going on." Claire was already opening boxes. Wedding favors. Ribbon curls. Little seating chart cards. Invitation inserts. A printed timeline. The bakery box had a sample cake inside with a neat white frosting design, and a label from the tasting appointment. Maddie stood beside me, holding a paper plate to her chest. "Is that for the wedding?" she asked. Claire smiled without looking at her. "Just a few pretty details. You're going to be in some of these pictures too. Remember?" Ethan glanced at me like he knew something felt off but didn't want to start a fight. Ruth wasn't there, but Claire kept mentioning the shared album. "Make sure the lighting is good," Claire told my cousin. "Ruth is watching the album. She wanted to see more family stuff." I didn't like the way she said family stuff. Like we were props from a storage closet. Still, I tried to keep the peace. I moved the gift bags to a smaller side table. I shifted Maddie's photo board to the corner. I told myself that if I could just get through cake and candles, Maddie would remember the good parts. Then Maddie spilled lemonade down the front of her dress. It wasn't a big deal. She gasped like the world had ended because she's 11, and I told her, "You're fine." We packed the cardigan. "Come on." I took her inside to Diane's laundry room, rinsed the sticky spot with a towel, and helped her change into the cardigan she had thrown into her backpack. We were inside maybe 7 minutes. When we came back out, Maddie's birthday table was gone. Not moved a little. Gone. The banner had been folded and placed on a chair. Her photo board was leaning against the fence where nobody could see it. Her 11 things cards were stacked under a pile of invitation envelopes. The sparkly number candles sat near the edge of the table like trash someone hadn't decided where to put yet. And in the center of the table was Claire's white sample cake, surrounded by wedding favors and ribbon. Maddie stopped walking. "Mom," she whispered, "where's my cake?" I looked at Claire. "Where is Maddie's cake?" Claire laughed, too loud and too bright. "Relax. It's in the garage fridge." The table looked cluttered. Maddie's face changed. It was small, but I saw it. Her eyebrows pulled together, her lips pressed tight, and her eyes started shining before she could stop them. "But it was my birthday table," she said. Claire turned toward her with that sweet public smile she used when she wanted everyone to think she was joking. "Maddie, you're 11, not a queen," she said. "You're not the main character today." A few relatives laughed awkwardly. Not because it was funny, but because nobody knew what to do when Claire crossed a line. Aunt Linda looked down at her cup. Ethan went still. Diane put a hand on my arm before I even spoke. "Claire is joking," Diane said. "Don't make that face, Maddie." Maddie blinked hard. "It's fine," she said, in a voice that meant it wasn't fine at all. Claire gave a little shrug. She should learn now that people won't always clap just because her mom hangs streamers. That was the sentence that did it. Not because it was the cruelest thing Claire had ever said. Probably wasn't. It did it because I watched my daughter try to fold herself smaller in front of the exact people who were supposed to celebrate her. Diane leaned close and whispered, "Don't start this today. Your sister is under enough pressure." I looked at Maddie holding her backpack strap with both hands. "My child is crying at her own birthday," I said. "You're making her more upset by reacting," Diane whispered. I didn't yell. I didn't call Claire names. I didn't throw the wedding favors into the grass, though I'll admit I imagined it for about half a second. I knelt in front of Maddie and said, "Grab your backpack, sweetheart." Her chin trembled. "Can we just go home?" "Yes," I said. "We can go home." I picked up the sparkly number candles because I had paid $6.99 for them, and because some petty part of me refused to leave even one piece of Maddie's birthday behind for Claire's photo shoot. I took Maddie's cardigan from the chair, her gift bag from Aunt Linda, and the little photo board. Diane followed us to the driveway, whisper yelling so the guests wouldn't hear. "Olivia, this is embarrassing." I opened the back door for Maddie. No, I said. You are embarrassing a child. Diane's mouth tightened. This isn't the time to punish your sister. I'm not teaching Maddie to stand there while adults practice cruelty. Maddie climbed into the back seat and curled against the door. Diane looked past me at her, then back at me, and for 1 second I thought maybe she understood. Then she said, "You know how Claire gets." I shut the car door gently. On the drive home, Maddie wiped glitter off her cheek with the back of her hand. She tried to do it casually like she wasn't crying. After a few minutes, she asked, "Does Aunt Claire hate me?" My hands tightened on the steering wheel. No adult gets to make you feel small and then call it a joke, I said. Whatever Aunt Claire feels is not your job to fix. Maddie looked out the window. Do I still have to be in the wedding? I wanted to say no instantly. I wanted to pull over, block every number in my family, and tell her she never had to see any of them again. But I also knew she was watching me. She needed calm more than she needed rage. Not unless you feel safe and respected, I said. And right now, I don't think Aunt Claire has earned that. When we got home, I made Maddie toast because she said her stomach hurt, then put on the movie she always chose when she wanted to feel little again. I didn't show her my phone. I didn't want her to see the family group chat turn on us in real time. It started less than 20 minutes after we left. The chat was called Diane's Family, and it had every aunt, uncle, cousin, and cousin's spouse who had ever been forced into one place for holidays. Diane, Olivia, you owe your sister an apology. Claire, I'm literally shaking. I can't believe she would do that in front of everyone. Aunt Linda, this isn't fair to your mom. She worked hard to host today. Cousin Jess, wait, what happened with Maddie? Diane. Olivia stormed out over a misunderstanding. Claire. She's trying to punish me before the wedding. Everyone saw it. Another cousin wrote, Isn't Maddie the flower girl? Please don't make this bigger. Then Claire wrote the line that made me stop feeling sad and start feeling focused. Claire. I can't believe she would weaponize Maddie right before my wedding. I muted the chat. That was new for me. Normally I'd answer every accusation. I'd explain, over-explain, soften my wording, and try to make everyone understand that I wasn't the villain. That day, I put the phone face down and sat beside Maddie, while she pretended to watch the movie. After she fell asleep on the couch, I checked the shared photo album. Diane had made everyone join it that morning so she could collect pictures from the party. A notification said, Claire added 14 photos. Most of them were exactly what Claire wanted. Wedding favors on the table. White cake in the center. Claire smiling beside Ethan. Claire holding ribbon. Claire laughing with Diane in the background. But one picture was sloppy. It had been taken from the side, probably by accident, and in the background, I could see Claire carrying Maddie's pink cake box toward the garage. Diane was holding the folded birthday banner. It wasn't the cake that made my stomach drop. It was how practiced Claire looked while moving it. Then I remembered the backyard camera. Diane had installed it months earlier after a package theft. She didn't understand the app, so I had set it up for her and kept access because she'd call me every time it disconnected. The camera faced the patio gate and caught most of the main table from an angle. I opened the app. The clip was 27 seconds long. Claire waited until Maddie and I went inside. Then she picked up the cake box, handed Diane the banner and said, Ruth is going to see these pictures. I can't have it looking like a kid's party when this is supposed to look like my family shower weekend. Diane said, Just put the cake somewhere safe. Olivia will get sensitive if you toss anything. Claire rolled her eyes. Maddie can blow out candles later. She needs to understand she's here for the wedding too. I watched it 3 times. Not because I needed to. Because some old part of me still expected the evidence to change if I looked long enough. Then my phone rang. It was Diane. I didn't answer. A minute later a voicemail appeared. I almost deleted it. I was too tired to listen to another guilt trip. But something made me press play. First it was muffled. Diane had clearly thought she'd hung up. Then her voice came through sharp and low. Claire, I told you not to say it like that where people could hear. Olivia was always going to get sensitive. You shouldn't have said the main character thing. But she could have just let it go until after the wedding. Now Ethan's mother is going to ask questions. There it was. They weren't confused. They weren't overwhelmed. They weren't trying to salvage a birthday that had gone wrong. They knew exactly what happened. They were managing optics. I saved the video. I saved the voicemail. I screenshotted the photo from the shared album. Then I went back to the group chat and read everything I had missed. Diane had written that I made Maddie cry by overreacting. Claire had written that I was jealous because nobody made me a bridesmaid. Aunt Linda had written, "Your mom doesn't deserve this stress at her age." Someone else had written, "Claire only gets married once. Maddie has a birthday every year." That one made me stare at the wall for a long time. I typed several things and deleted them. Then I sent one calm message. Olivia. I left because Claire humiliated Maddie at her own birthday and Mom defended it. I'm not discussing this in front of my child. Maddie will not be the flower girl unless Claire gives her a real apology with no excuses. I didn't attach the evidence yet. Part of me wanted to. A very large part. But I wanted to see whether anyone would stop lying when given a clear boundary. They didn't. Diane, don't start rewriting the day. Claire, this is blackmail. Aunt Linda, Olivia, please. This is hurting your mother. Claire. I need Maddie for the ceremony. Don't make this weird. Olivia. Maddie isn't available for pictures with someone who can't speak to her kindly. Claire. Not everything has to be a production because Olivia brought glitter. Then Claire made her mistake. She added me to another thread called Wedding Help Crew, which included Ethan, Ruth, Diane, a couple of bridesmaids, and a few relatives. In that thread, she wrote that I was withholding Maddie to sabotage the ceremony, and that Maddie had thrown a tantrum after I worked her up. I watched the typing bubbles appear and disappear. Then a private text came from Ruth. Ruth. Olivia, I don't want to insert myself, but I heard Maddie had a hard afternoon. I want to ask you directly before I assume anything. Is she all right? I stared at that message for a full minute. Ruth wasn't dramatic. She wasn't accusing me. She was asking one direct question. So I answered the same way. Olivia. Thank you for asking. Maddie didn't have a tantrum. She cried after an adult moved her birthday cake and told her she wasn't the main character at her own birthday. Then I sent the 27-second clip, the voicemail, and the photo from the shared album. I didn't add a speech. I didn't call Claire cruel. I didn't tell Ruth what to do. I let the evidence be the loudest person in the room for once. Ruth didn't answer immediately. When she did, all she wrote was, Ruth. I am very sorry Maddie was treated that way. Thank you for telling me. The next morning, Diane called me 9 times before 10 a.m. I let every call go to voicemail. Her messages started out controlled. Olivia, call me. We need to discuss this like adults. Then they got sharper. You had no right to send private family footage to Ruth. Then desperate. Ethan is asking questions and Claire is hysterical. You need to fix what you broke. I was making Maddie pancakes shaped like cats because she had decided turtles were too hard after yesterday. She sat at the counter in pajamas, poking a blueberry into one pancake's face. Is Grandma mad? She asked. I put my phone screen down. Grandma is having feelings, I said. Those are not yours to carry. Maddie looked relieved and guilty at the same time. Around noon, the Diane's family chat started again. Diane. Olivia, call me now. Claire, you sent that to Ruth? Are you serious? Aunt Linda. What video? Cousin Jess. I feel like we're missing something. Diane, nobody needs to pile on. Olivia's making this worse. Claire. I'm the one getting married. Can't just one weekend be about someone other than her? I wiped syrup off Maddie's chin, sent her to brush her teeth and opened the chat. My hands were steady. Olivia, you all asked me to stop making this look bad. I'm done helping you make it look better than it was. Then I attached the camera clip and the voicemail. The chat went silent. For the first time in years, nobody had a quick excuse ready. Aunt Linda was the first to respond. Aunt Linda. Diane, did you know Claire moved the cake? Nobody answered. Cousin Jess. She said Ruth was watching the pictures? Another cousin, wait. Maddie didn't have a tantrum? Claire finally wrote. Claire. This was taken out of context. Olivia. The context is a child's birthday. Diane called again. I answered this time because Maddie was in her room and I was ready. My mother was crying, but not the way people cry when they're sorry. It was the panicked crying of someone whose curtain had been pulled open. Ethan asked for space, she said. Ruth is furious. The rehearsal dinner payment is being paused. Olivia, you need to call them and explain that Claire was stressed. I leaned against the kitchen counter and looked at the lopsided cat pancakes cooling on a plate. No. 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 This time you can explain why stress made you protect an adult from the child she hurt. Diane inhaled sharply. Do you want everyone to think our family is trash? I want my daughter to know the truth doesn't make her trash. Claire's wedding is at risk. Then maybe her wedding shouldn't depend on everyone lying about who she is. Diane's voice turned cold. You're enjoying this. That would have worked on me once. I would have rushed to prove I wasn't cruel. I would have softened, apologized for my tone, maybe agreed to talk to Ruth. Instead I said, I'm not enjoying any of this. But I'm done fixing what you break. I hung up. That afternoon Ethan texted me. His message was brief. Ethan, I'm sorry. I believed what I was told before I asked you. Maddie deserved better. I'm postponing the wedding until Claire and I do counseling. I won't ask about the flower girl role again unless you and Maddie freely offer it. I didn't know what to feel when I read that. Relief maybe. Sadness. Anger that a man outside our family needed 27 seconds to see what my mother had refused to see for 11 years. I replied, thank you for saying that. Please don't contact Maddie directly. He said he understood. The fallout wasn't as dramatic as some people probably imagine. Nobody threw a drink. Nobody got arrested. Claire didn't lose every friend she had by sunset. Real consequences are usually quieter than that. But the wedding was postponed. Ruth withdrew payment for the rehearsal dinner until she was convinced Claire understood what she had done. Ethan moved out of Claire's apartment for a while, according to Diane, who told me this like I was supposed to faint from guilt. Claire's bridesmaids started asking what had happened, because the rehearsal schedule disappeared from the shared calendar. And my family, the same family that had spent years telling me I remembered things wrong, suddenly became very careful with their wording. Aunt Linda messaged me privately that night. Aunt Linda. I'm sorry. The chat looked different after the video. I shouldn't have assumed. I stared at the message. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't enough. But it was the closest Linda had ever come to admitting that the family story and the truth were not the same thing. I wrote back, thank you for saying that. Maddie doesn't need half apologies that include, you know how Claire is. Linda sent, I understand. A cousin messaged to say she had noticed Claire making little comments before, but thought it wasn't her place. Another relative said Diane had made it sound like I dragged Maddie out screaming. Nobody liked my answer, but I kept it simple. Maddie was hurt. I removed her from the situation. The rest is not mine to manage. Claire didn't contact me until the next evening. The doorbell rang just after dinner. Maddie was in the living room building a tiny clay turtle from a craft kit. I checked the doorbell camera and saw Claire standing on my porch with Diane sitting in the passenger seat of her car like a general waiting behind the lines. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. Claire's eyes were red, but her makeup was still perfect. Can I come in? She asked. No. Her mouth twitched. Fine. I'm sorry if Maddie took it wrong. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because the sentence was so clear it should have been printed on one of her wedding favors. That's not an apology, I said. That's a press release. Claire crossed her arms. What do you want from me, Olivia? Do you want me to crawl? Do you want me to lose my wedding? I want you to apologize to Maddie directly without blaming stress, me, the wedding, or her feelings. Until then, you don't get access to her. And she's not your flower girl. Diane got out of the car then, moving fast for someone who claimed her knees hurt whenever I asked her to help carry groceries. Olivia, enough, she said. You're destroying this family. I turned to her. No. I'm ending the part where a child gets hurt so adults can keep pretending. Claire's face hardened. Maddie is fine. Kids cry over everything. Then you should have no trouble staying away from one kid who cries over everything. Diane looked toward the front window. Does Maddie know you're doing this? That was when I felt the old trap open under my feet. Diane wanted me to prove I wasn't controlling. She wanted to pull Maddie into the middle and make her choose between safety and approval. Maddie is 11, I said. She's not responsible for managing your access to her. I am. Claire said. Ethan thinks I'm some monster now. I didn't make that video. You did. You sent it. After you lied about my daughter. Diane's eyes filled with tears. I was trying to keep the peace. I looked at her for a long second. Peace for who? Neither of them answered. Claire left first, heels clicking down the porch steps. Diane lingered like she expected me to soften. I didn't. When I went back inside, Maddie was still sitting on the floor with her clay turtle, pretending not to have listened. Is Aunt Claire mad? She asked. Yes, I said, sitting beside her. But being mad doesn't make her right. Maddie nodded. Then very quietly she asked, Am I still in trouble? I pulled her into my arms before I could answer. She went stiff at first, then melted into me. You were never in trouble, I said. Not for crying. Not for wanting your cake. Not for being excited about your own birthday. She cried then. Not the silent tears from the party, but the messy kind she had been holding in because she thought being upset was another way to inconvenience everyone. I let her cry. I didn't tell her to be bigger. I didn't tell her to let it go. 3 days later, Claire mailed a handwritten card. It had Maddie's name on the envelope in loopy silver ink. I opened it first because after everything, Claire didn't get direct access to my child without earning trust. The card said, Maddie, I'm sorry the party became stressful. Weddings make everyone emotional. I hope you know I still want you to be part of my special day. There was a little heart after her name. I took a picture of the card and sent it to Claire. Olivia. Try again when you're ready to tell the truth. She didn't answer. Diane tried a different approach. She sent long messages about family, forgiveness, and how mothers make mistakes. She said she meant well. She said she loved Maddie. She said Claire had always been sensitive and I knew that. I didn't translate any of that into accountability. I wrote back one sentence. Olivia, you won't see Maddie until you can say plainly, I should have protected you. Diane sent nothing for 2 days. Those 2 days were the quietest my phone had been in years. Maddie asked less about the wedding as time went on. I told her in plain terms that the wedding had been postponed, and that the adults were working through adult problems. I didn't show her the group chat. I didn't show her the voicemail. She didn't need to see how many grown people were willing to trade her feelings for a smooth rehearsal dinner. 2 weeks after the ruined party, I gave Maddie a second birthday afternoon at home. It wasn't fancy. 3 friends came over. We made pancakes for dinner because Maddie said breakfast food after sunset felt illegal in a good way. The homemade cake leaned slightly to one side because I'm not a baker, and the strawberry filling escaped down the back like the cake was trying to leave the situation too. We stuck the recovered sparkly number candles on top. One of them dripped wax too fast and made Maddie laugh so hard she had to sit down. Her friend sang off-key. Someone spilled orange soda. The clay turtle from the craft kit sat in the middle of the table as a mascot. There were no perfect pictures. No wedding favors. No one asking her to stand straighter so she would look better for someone else's story. After everyone left, Maddie helped me carry paper plates to the trash. This birthday was better, she said. I tied the garbage bag slowly because my throat tightened. Yeah. She nodded. Nobody made me feel weird for liking it. That was what a safe celebration felt like. Not perfect. Not impressive. Not useful for anyone's image. Just a child eating lopsided cake in her socks, laughing with frosting on her chin because nobody in the room needed her to shrink. Later that night, Diane finally sent the message I had asked for. Diane, I should have protected Maddie. I didn't because I was protecting Claire. I sat with that message for a long time. Part of me wanted to cry. Part of me wanted to send back a list of every time she had done the same thing to me. Part of me wanted to forgive her immediately because old habits don't die just because you finally name them. I didn't do any of those things. I showed Maddie the message the next morning and said, Grandma sent this. You don't have to answer. You don't have to feel any certain way about it. Maddie read it twice. Can I think about it? She asked. Always. Claire's wedding remained postponed. I didn't celebrate that. I didn't make jokes about karma or send smug updates to anyone. Claire didn't lose her whole life. She lost the version where everyone else cleaned up after her and called it love. Ethan and Ruth stayed out of my life after that, Except for one polite message from Ruth asking me to tell Maddie she was sorry adults had failed her. I did pass that one along because it asked nothing from my daughter. As for Diane, the boundary stayed. She didn't get casual visits. She didn't get to drop off gifts and pretend that counted as repair. If she wanted a relationship with Maddie, she had to build it honestly, slowly, and without using Claire's sensitivity as a shield. The strangest part was how little I missed the noise. For years, I thought being included in my family meant surviving whatever version of the story they needed me to accept. After that birthday, I realized inclusion wasn't worth much if the price was handing them my daughter's self-worth. I spent my whole life being told to be the bigger person. That day, I finally understood that being bigger didn't mean making myself smaller. It meant standing between my daughter and the people who expected her to shrink too. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.